Yes, welcome back, Loony listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 132 with warts and all. I am your High Priest of Khonshu Rey, and I am joined by a special guest for this episode, Mr. Knol Loony Toonz Tate. Knol, welcome back.
Hey Ray, thanks for having me.
Cool.
Good to be back.
Yeah, it's going to be great. This is our second time round. Knol is no stranger to the show, but I think it's only the second time round that you're coming on to review some comics. So,
yes,
Loonies, we have a waxing gibbous, I do believe, and it is an Over the Moon segment tonight. So we'll be looking at an arc review, and I've just closed my eyes and thrown something at the dartboard, and I've chosen Marvel Knights issues 4 to 7. Now, Knol, we're going to have to get into the little details of that. I do believe I may have overshot the mark there. It could potentially be 4 to 6. I was just reading part 7. That was the beginning of another arc. So anyway,
right. That's actually where it gets exciting. So I read up until 9, I think.
Yeah, I read ahead as well, just thinking, this is good with Doctor Strange. But anyway, we will cover the first arc, which is, we'll get to it. It's interesting. But welcome back, Loonies. Yes, a little bit frazzled. Just had a little bit of technical difficulties beforehand, but I think we're off and running to the races. Now, before we get on to anything else, I want to shout out to our Patreon members. And of course, you, the Looney listeners, can join and become a Patreon member if you just click the link to our Patreon page and have a look at the tiers there. But a big thanks to a couple of new members, new co-producers, Anthony Sitko and Justin Osgood. So thanks, guys. That's really appreciated. And any contribution is great. So thank you so much for that. Anyway, Knol, I think before we get into the review, just a bit of catch up, mate. It's been a while, So,
yeah, it has been.
So
how have you been?
Been good. It's been look. If I'm going to start with, your generic small talk, you know how it's been so hot here lately with the bushfires and stuff. It has about faced, really. And
really,
today we've got about 130 mils of rain. 130 mils.
Wow.
So little mini floods just on the roads and stuff. It's just been raining constantly. But, nice relief for the drought and for the farmers in the rural areas. Apparently it has reached inland far enough, so that's pretty good.
Good.
Yeah, but no, things have been going well. No, nothing too crazy. How have you been yourself?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Nothing too crazy.
Have
Just
you been
got finished with more than 2 weeks straight of work every day, and then I've had the past week, pretty much almost week off, and it's been great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've seen some drawing, any writing, anything. Yeah.
Just catching up on a bunch of comics and rehearsing a little bit with Deleter. We're playing a festival in a couple weeks.
Nice.
In a small town called Red Wing, Minnesota, with a bunch of other bands, and I don't remember where we're playing or what day or with who or the name of the festival either.
Spoken like a true musician there, Knol.
Yeah. I just show up.
Show up, plug in, play.
Exactly.
For Looney listeners, though, as well, that are new to the show and don't know, Knol fronts the band Deleter, and you may have seen their name peppered around the podcast episodes and stuff. They have graciously given their music to the show. Knol's given his time numerous times on the show to review stuff, to go through. One of the most exciting things from last year, I found Knol was that the EP, The Other Void from Deleter. That was really cool to get Moon Knight in music form.
Yes, that was our little tribute to my favorite character.
Yeah, no, that was cool. Speaking of comics, then, anything of note that you'd like to recommend the listeners that you've been reading lately? Could be new, could be old.
It's mostly been old that I've been reading. I've been meaning to actually go. I might actually later today go pick up. I think it came out this week. Chip Zdarsky's Fantastic Four versus X-Men.
Ah, right. Yes.
I think that's #1 came out this week. If not, it's next week. Well, I'll go find out. Because I was gonna go to the comic store later today anyway. So that I'm doing. But I've just been reading a lot of old things. I picked up Brian K. Vaughan's Doctor Strange: The Oath in trade.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Which I knew the story, but I had never read it, and it's a great comic. And what else? Catching up on a bunch of Love and Rockets from the Hernandez brothers. They started doing new issues again.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
Just if you're looking at, I'm just looking down. I'm just writing these down on the notes. So.
That's fine.
Yeah,
I paid attention. Yeah. They started redoing Love and Rockets a few years ago in floppy magazine format. So I've been trying to catch up on some of those, including also found a few trade paperbacks of the old 80s run from Love and Rockets. So that stuff is always really, really cool. Do you know who Peter Bagg is? He did Hate comics in the early 90s, late 80s.
Sounds very heartwarming. Okay. No, I haven't heard. No.
Yeah, I found there's a great book. It's a trade of just all the stories with Buddy Bradley, which is one of his kind of main character from Hate. It was they claim it's like the first sort of grunge or Generation X, or not. I wouldn't say Generation X, but one of the first sort of like slacker comics from the early 90s.
Oh, cool.
And Peter Bagg's kind of a dick. But he does these really, really great. The art is kind of a throwback to kind of 60s underground comics. And they're great, really depressing stories. And then a Dan Klaus book, which I'm always reading one of his books, but I think it's his newest one, came out a few years ago, called Patience, which is kind of a depressing, sort of sci-fi trippy comic, but it's really beautiful. The first chapter alone, I was reading in a coffee shop and I guess I do this a lot. I was in a coffee shop reading and I start tearing up. And I was like, okay, I got to stop reading this book.
So is that a trade as well? Like, was that in collection?
It's a whole graphic novel. Yeah, it never came out, and it's really good. And then just to catch up with some of the history, I picked up a collection of the first Vision and Scarlet Witch.
Oh, nice.
Limited series, the one from I think it's like 80, right around 80, 82, somewhere in there.
Okay, good. You're not into the 90s there where Scarlet Witch is... I've read some 90s Scarlet Witch is a little bit... Yeah.
Yeah. They did two limited series. They did the first one in the early 80s. Bill Mantlo, I believe, wrote it. Bill Mantlo wrote it. And it's not quite as crazy as they get. The second series is with them having the children and stuff. It's a kind of stuff loosely based on what I think they're going to do the TV show.
Okay.
Bits of the TV show. So I've had this for a while. I thought I should probably just read it. And it's fantastic 80s Marvel comics.
Yeah. It was a good era. 80s was a good era for Marvel.
It was. Yeah. It's got Rick Leonardi on art, so it actually kind of has almost a little bit of he got a lot of work in the early 90s, so his work was a little ahead of his time in a way, even though the comic is still very, very 80s. So yeah, that's a bunch of stuff I've been reading this week. Nice.
I mean, a lot more reading than I've been managed to fit in, but that sounds really cool. And so, do you with current comics as well? Are you getting many? I mean, you just mentioned FF versus X-Men, you're thinking of picking that up. Are you still getting the weekly pulls, or just more delving into the older classics?
No, there's so much to read.
Yeah.
And with new stuff, unless I'm extremely excited about it, I'll wait to pick it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, like most of I know Zdarsky's Daredevil is fantastic right now, but
it's good.
I'm gonna wait a while until I get up. It's hard for me. I'm sort of, for being a Gen Xer, I've got sort of a millennial impatience when it comes to. I like to really binge things, so I like to pick things up and trade, because the second, at least there has to be a couple volumes out, otherwise I'm like, I can't wait to read that. I don't like waiting week to week. But I don't, unless something, like I said, unless something is really good, I won't really pick up the floppies, which is probably killing comics a little bit, but it's also supporting the things I really think should be should be done. Like, I think they should be giving Zdarsky all the money, so I'll try to buy his comics.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards that way currently now as well, Noel. Like, and the only hard thing with that is, of course, as you mentioned, say the Zdarsky Daredevil run, it's kind of hard to know that that's coming out present, but you're not reading it and not keeping up to date with it. But recently I've learned to kind of let that go, because I've actually stopped my weeklies as well. Because
completely.
Yeah, because I'm investing my my disposable on trades and epic collections, because I like the older stuff as well. So, as you say, there's too much to read, and I keep on falling behind. 2 or 3 weeks behind. So I thought, well, I'm behind anyway. I'm just gonna let it go. And instead of trying to catch up with it and have a stack of comics next to my bed that I've not read, I might as well pick up some juicy epics, and I think I'm starting to become a little bit of an addict with it, because they're really good, but obviously a bit more pricier. So so they're the bulk. So recently I've been reading the Amazing Spider-Man Epic Collection, Goblin's Last Stand. I'm going through that, which
That'd be late 80s, early 90s?
No, that this is in the 70s, mid to late 70s. It is the Jerry Conway, but it was Stan Lee at the beginning of the Epic Collection, and John Romita Sr.
Oh, okay. So it's like, didn't they do a Hobgoblin thing? Maybe it was called Hobgoblin's Last Stand. That was in the 80s.
Yeah, I think that was, that come in later. So the Goblin's Last Stand, I haven't reached the Goblin stories yet, but there was the introduction.
The night Gwen Stacy died is probably in that epic. Then. Okay.
Yeah, that's that's the big issue. So I haven't come up to that yet. I've nearly finished the epic, and it still hasn't arrived yet. So it's really good. So you get a lot of issues with Gwen and Flash and Mary Jane. So you get, I love that stuff with Spider-Man.
Me too. I've read, I think, close to all of that. Just that makes me excited for that epic collection. I would like to pick that up too.
It's really good. It's with Doc Ock and Aunt May. The weird kind of relationship that they've got.
That's one of my favorite eras of Spider-Man too. Is like the early Romita stuff is great, and the Jerry Conway stuff is great.
They just balance the action with the, I don't know, what you call the relationship dramas and stuff. It's just really good. So reading that at the moment, which like I said, introduction of the Gibbon, which I think Nick Spencer recently, he killed off the Gibbon in a very sad story in Hunted, Amazing Spider-Man. And obviously the Goblin's coming up. There's some Doc Ock issues. And Hammerhead, I think it was the introduction of Hammerhead, his first appearance. So that was pretty cool. So reading that, and also reading the first epic of Daredevil, The Man Without Fear. So starting from issue 1.
They started there?
Yeah, it's from 1 to 20 or something. So I'm only up to issue 8 or 9. Most notably,
who's the primary artist on the? Is it Don Heck on the earliest stuff?
Oh, the very, very early stuff. I think it's something Orlando. Something Orlando, but it turns into Wally Wood, and Wally Wood takes over.
Ooh.
Yeah, after issue 7, I think. 7 being the one, I think the semi-famous one where he fights Namor, the Submariner. So going to that, but they're so corny with the villains like the Matador, Stilt Man. It's just really funny stuff.
I love it. Yeah.
It is good. Yeah, so that's in the mid 60s to late 60s. I can't wait to read, start to get into the 70s and to Frank Miller. But I'm trying to work my way through that. So that's pretty cool. And look, I'm waiting for King's Comics, the greatest comic book store in the universe. I've just ordered with them. It's coming my way. It's a Bob Layton's 80s Hercules called. I think it's Inner Circle or Full Circle. It's with Hercules in space, and I just love that. It's just,
you love the Hercules stuff, don't you?
Yeah, but this cosmic stuff, it's campy. It's just funny. It's pretty cool. So
it's gotta be.
Yeah. So looking forward to that as well. And just lastly, I want to add, a friend of the show, Dave Finn from Signal of Doom. I'm reading his third novel.
He has 3 out now.
Yeah, he's got 3. So
Wow.
This is number 3, Demorn Soul Fighter. It's a fantasy kind of story. There's a lot going on. It's quite entertaining. So that's keeping me busy on my Kindle. So that's with the reading. Noel, any TV film of note that you've seen that you've been watching?
I haven't really been watching much on television. I just needed, after so much audio coming at me for a couple of weeks in a row, I needed some silence. So I've been reading instead. I did finally go see Jojo Rabbit, the
did you?
Taika Waititi movie, and that was fantastic.
Was it?
What a movie that was. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Have you seen
No,
that?
I haven't seen it.
You know the premise?
It's a little German boy trying to get indoctrinated or something in the Nazis, but he's against it, right? And his brother's in for it or something like that.
He's fully in.
Oh, he's fully in. Okay.
Yeah, he's a little German boy a little Hitler youth who his imaginary friend is Adolf Hitler, played by Taika Waititi. And he and his mother is played by Scarlett Johansson, and she does a fantastic job.
Do you think Oscar worthy?
It's kind of a
for her?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I haven't seen any of the other Oscar contenders yet. I'd like to see 1917. I've heard that's really good too, but it's really, really good. It's kind of it feels a little Wes Anderson at times, where it's a little.
It has that vibe, doesn't it? It kind of looks like it from the trailers and all that.
It does, kind of. I mean, it's, what did I say to a friend? I just said it's like if Wes Anderson had balls, sort of. It's because, I mean, it makes who's going to have Adolf Hitler as a co-star in a film?
It's a pretty,
And it's it's really, really funny and really weird and very heartbreaking, too.
Right.
And the kid who plays Jojo does a great job, and Taika Waititi. And there's another person who, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but there's a young woman in it too who does who's just a little bit older than the little boy who's in it, and she does a fantastic job. But there's a great supporting cast.
Nice.
Sam Rockwell does a fantastic job.
He's always good. Yeah.
Crazy Stephen Merchant from the UK office.
Yeah.
He has a bit part that's where he's great and terrifying.
Right. He does look. He can look a bit scary. That guy.
Yeah. Well, he's like
he's crazy tall,
6 or something.
Yeah.
And he can be very intimidating.
He played.
I highly suggest it.
Yeah. So just sorry, cut you off there. No, he played Caliban in Logan. Very scary looking.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, the kind of pale.
The second person to play Caliban, I believe.
Oh yeah. Okay, that's pretty cool. I mean, I wish I got to the cinemas a bit more. I was.
It's hard.
It is hard. Yeah, I'm hoping. Obviously, with some of the comic book movies coming out later, I'll get to it. I'm hoping to make some time for Bloodshot, which is the Valiant comic. Vin Diesel. Hopefully, that will kind of lift the profile of the character, and maybe Kickstarter franchise.
That did not look interesting to me whatsoever.
I know. It's when I looked at the trailer, it looked like a B grade movie. I don't think it will. But I was listening to another podcast and they were talking about it. This is a Valiant Comics podcast. They make a good point. Vin Diesel, associated with Fast and the Furious, a massive franchise. He might be able to pull, some viewers from that.
He'll get a few more butts in the seats. I'm
yeah.
sure. Birds of Prey opens here in the States today.
Yeah.
Harley Quinn. It's getting really good reviews.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Like, I watched a few reviews.
Wow.
That's pretty much the only TV I've been watching is some YouTube stuff.
Yeah.
For reviews and things. They're saying it's really good. It's in the vein of sort of a Deadpool, kind of crazy, unreliable narrator, sort of fourth wall breaking, but not talking directly to the camera. And I guess it's good performances and the action is good. A lot of people were worried it was going to suck, and so I actually may go see it sometime in the next couple weeks for a matinee.
Yeah, I mean, nothing against them and nothing against DC. I just have no interest, really.
I didn't either until I saw the reviews.
Okay. I mean, I might wait till I might rent it or something. I'm glad to hear that it's actually good. I'm hoping it's better than Suicide Squad.
No, that movie was awful.
Yeah.
I hear everyone is saying it's like, I mean, it makes sense it's a continuation of Suicide Squad, but it's hand over fist better.
Okay. Okay, well that's good. I'm happy to hear. Because it seemed that was I don't know. I remember reading articles about Margot Robbie pitching that, as just to make a movie, and it seemed to just kind of come together all really quickly. But they've got some good names there. Rosie Perez, she's Montoya.
She's question. Well, what will become the question, maybe?
Oh, really? Okay.
In the comics, Rosie, she becomes the second question, isn't that right?
Really?
Okay. DC. It's hard to keep track for me.
Yeah.
And then, what's her name? Who plays Huntress is a really good actress too.
Oh, okay. I didn't recognize any other.
I'm forgetting her name right now. Really tall, beautiful woman who plays Huntress. I guess the whole cast is great.
Okay. Is Black Canary?
So we'll see.
Is Black Canary in that?
She's there. Okay. It's Smollett. I can't remember her first name. I remember her last name because her brother was in some controversy. But, I guess she's really good too. And people are saying Ewan McGregor is fantastic. Yeah. They're saying he's fantastic. It's not quite the Black Mask from the comics, which I don't know much. I only know kind of from some of the animated DC stuff. So they're saying it's not hard and fast, the same Black Mask, but it's a really cool version and a really crazy version. So
okay, cool. I mean, I respect Ewan McGregor. I reckon he's a good actor. Just he dives into his roles. So yeah, I mean, I mentioned that Black Canary. She's the only one apart from Harley, that I really kind of half know, and I only know Black Canary because of another podcast of who would win. And they pit Black Canary against Hawkeye. So I got to learn about Black Canary then. But,
so they did Green Arrow's girlfriend against Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another book. I just remember that's something I finished a while ago too. The first 2 volumes of Hawkeye from Fraction, which maybe I think that makes, for the last decade, that book probably makes it's close to my top spot for book of the decade. That run is amazing.
I would have to say it's very special up in there. I mean, like I've got the 2 volumes in hardcover. I haven't reread I've read all of it, but I haven't reread the second volume yet. But I reread the first one not that long ago as well, and it still holds up, and you can see the influence.
So funny and so good.
Yeah, and you can see the imitators, like the imitations later on, like because trying to capture that kind of magic again.
He just redefined Clint Barton in a really cool way, but while still kind of keeping to the character. I was just reading a while ago some West Coast Avengers, and I was like, this still, this feels like Clint, with Fraction stuff, but he just expanded it and made it modern and funny and
Yeah.
slightly obtuse, and it's great. And the art for that stuff is just fantastic.
Oh, the art's brilliant. David Ayer. I love his art. He did another a run in one of the Avengers titles. I think it was, is it Secret Avengers or
Maybe.
But he drew Shang-Chi, and to me is really cool Shang-Chi interpretation. I mean, and I'm linking this Loonies to our Marvel Nights coming up.
Yeah.
But they're cool. Movie-wise, I haven't seen much myself, Noel. I just put a couple of things here. The Penny Dreadful TV show. There's The City of Angels coming out, which is a sequel to it. I've watched seasons 1 to 3. I'm going to rewatch it again because I'll be jumping on the brilliant blokes over at TV Podcast Industries. They're going to be releasing a retrospective on Penny Dreadful.
Cool.
And I'll be jumping on there to review some of the stuff with them, which will be really fun. So
their Watchmen coverage was great. I listened to all of that. Yeah.
Really cool. I loved how they did this analysis and then they had the feedback like separate. It just gave them plenty of room to do both, which is really good.
Cheers to those guys. They're doing a great job for everything they cover.
Yeah, big shout out to John, Derek, and Chris. And also something that I just jumped on board. I might be late to the thing. The Bodyguard. Have you heard of that, Noel?
Isn't that an old movie with Kevin Costner?
Which is very good as well. Don't get me wrong. I love that movie with Whitney Houston. No, but this has Richard Madden, who comic book fans will know he's going to play Icarus in the Eternals. He also played one of the guys in Game of Thrones, one of the Starks in Game of Thrones, but he plays the bodyguard, so he's Scottish, so he uses his natural accent, a lot more interesting than I thought. I've only seen episode 1 so far, but it really unpacks a lot for his character. He's got a lot of baggage, PTSD. He's an ex soldier from, I think Afghanistan. And his political inclinations are directly opposite to the client that he has to protect. So it makes for a very interesting character and an interesting dynamic. And also he's got some struggles at home. So I don't know, I'm getting a bit of a sense of Falling Down, Noel, where he's might slowly crumble, and he might be Breaking Bad towards the end. I don't know, but it looks really good. At the moment he's very professional. He's very good at what he does, but it's really good. So that's on Netflix. And anyway, it's an old series. We've been put onto it by a couple of friends, and it seems to be pretty cool. So any loonies out there who watch The Bodyguard, let us know. Look, loonies as well, please indulge. I'm just catching up with good mate Knol here as well. We will get to the Moon Knight aspect of this podcast, and I don't want to disappoint you, but Marvel Knights, if you've already read it 4 to 7, you know that Moon Knight is very tangential in it as well, right?
Yeah.
Could I say?
Yep, this is barely a Moon Knight podcast today.
So unfortunately, so a bit of a spoiler there for the review, but we're still going to review it. Anyway, finally, Noel, I just want to get to just podcasts or music. What I thought would be interesting, I'm not sure if I broached this with you before, listening to music while you read your comics. I know you go into the cafe. Do you plug in some earplugs? Do you have something on while you read, or do you like the silence?
It all sort of, if I go to the cafe, it depends on how loud it is there, or the bar. If it's if there's nice music playing and it's quiet, I won't mess with things. But I can't listen to a lot of the music that I would normally listen to when I read. I find it distracting. Like if there's lyrics in it, and I know a lot of people are that way too when they write as well. If there's lyrics in it, you kind of find it distracting. But lately, a lot when I do need, I was just reading on the train the other day, and normally, what if I'm traveling or whatever, I just listen to podcasts. But I felt like reading, and I wanted to catch up on some of these Love and Rockets comics, and I put on music for Airports by Brian Eno.
Brian Eno,
an
okay.
old record he'd made that's just all sort of kind of ambient
Oh, nice.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's like Brian Eno was in Roxy Music, and then went on to have a really cool solo career and produced records for David Bowie and early U2 stuff and a bunch of other people. But that's a great record for reading because everything moves kind of slow, and it's not like I tried listening to jazz and classical while reading too, but that can be almost as distracting as like more of the kind of punk stuff I listen to because there's bursts and like dynamic and things, and there's just almost no dynamic in music for airports. It's just very slow, but it's not ambient in like the modern sense of sort of whatever techno adjacent kind of stuff. It's it's kind of old school with tape loops and synthesizers and shit. It's really cool to listen to, and it's good soundtrack for reading.
And you mentioned podcasts as well. Any other podcasts you want to give a bit of a plug to that you've discovered or you like listening to the most?
There's nothing new. I have a lot in my feed to catch up with every week. There's a lot. I mean, right now in the States, it's the primary elections are going on, so there's a lot of politics I've been listening to, a lot of analyzing of what's happening with that. Sort of recently, I just started listening to the Weekly Planet podcast.
Okay.
Made there in Australia. The guy who does the Mr. Sunday Movies channel, and comedian Nick Mason. I've been watching his YouTube channel for a long time, but I just within the past few months started listening to their podcast, and it's really great. Those two they cover all the same stuff that everybody does, the same pop culture things, but they have a sort of a dismissive take on everything that's very funny. It's a really good, entertaining podcast, especially for like Monday mornings. I think they release it, Sunday evening in Australia.
Nice. A little shout out as well, because they're affiliated with one of the first comic book podcasts I listened to, Serious Issues. And a big shout out to Levins and Siobhan there. They've just released, they've been on hiatus for about 3 months or so, but they've released an episode. It's good to have them back. They just review comics, but they're part of the network that the Weekly Planet is on, and Levins has had Mason or Meso on the show a few times. So that's really cool. It's cool that you're listening to them. That's because they've got actually a big audience.
They do. Yeah, I didn't quite realize they were very funny. Great. I guess they've been mates since they were kids.
Yeah, so they just bounce off.
Exactly. And they're in the same room, and they just it's great.
Well,
James, actually, Mr. Sunday, he has a small child too who's been making a lot of appearances on the podcast lately by just running in the room and asking for sandwiches. And so they pause the recording, and he comes back, and then his kid comes in. He's like, "I want another big sandwich." He's like, "Another one." It's just funny.
That's what's waiting when Finn can talk.
Pretty soon, little Finn's going to be asking you for sandwiches.
He's getting there. Yeah. Look, with podcast wise, Knol, I'm less. You're talking about the politics and stuff. I'm way less. Who would win? That's what I'm listening to. I think they say it at the beginning of their podcast. Just for the moment, we'd like to leave everything of the world's problems outside and just concentrate on just a made-up fight. And so that's what I've been listening to lately, just pure escapism. I listened to lately, it's not particularly one of their more recent episodes, but it was Taskmaster versus Midnighter. And I wanted to get your take. I mean, I didn't know much about Midnighter. I know a lot about Taskmaster. But what would your, if you had them, who would you pit to win? Do you know Midnighter?
I don't. I don't think.
Okay. I think he was from Wildstorm or something. He was in a relationship, but he's kind of like a Batman-esque. But
I can picture the character. I've
very
never
popular
read any
character.
Wildstorm stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
So I would just say Taskmaster.
Yeah, me too.
Because Taskmaster can copy anybody's moves. So
Yeah, that's it. Well, apparently Midnighter won, but I don't know much about. I know. Well, apparently he's got a computer or something that he can strategize. Like he can plan.
He's Batman.
Yeah. He can plan like 100 steps
He's
ahead.
ready for everything.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's like, how do you defend against that? Like, I've got a plan. Yeah, it's like,
I guess if you're Taskmaster, though, you could just copy that plan.
oh yeah, true. Yeah.
But you'd have to see it first, I guess.
Well, that was the thing. I think that's where the debater Rey Stacanus he fell down in. He was pitching that Taskmaster was random, and Midnighter could not come up with a plan for him. But yeah, he lost it. So anyway, that's what
That's been sort of making a comeback. All those versus things, people got sick of that for a while. But the Comic Pop channel on their YouTube has been, or on their Instagram has been doing a lot of those Who Would Wins. And actually, it's probably over by the time this is released, but they did Nightwing versus Moon Knight yesterday.
Oh, geez.
And I went to all my accounts and I voted for Moon Knight, even though Nightwing was still winning. But it was close. It was like 51, 48, 49%. Yeah. And I was like, I'm surprised. Yeah. That's cool. I don't think Dick Grayson would know what to do with Moon Knight, so that's why I was like, I honestly think Moon Knight would whip his butt.
Yeah, again, another friend of the show, Phil. I'm sure he'd
he would argue that sure.
About, yeah.
Nightwing. That's like his handle in it, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, just Nightwing handle. Yeah, again, I don't know much about Nightwing. To me, he's just another Robin, isn't he? So I reckon Moon Knight can beat him. I don't know, but I don't know. He sounds dangerous, so maybe.
I mean, Dick Grayson generally in the comics is just as capable as his mentor. Mm-hmm. So he's even taken over for him before.
Okay.
One of Scott Snyder's first runs on, I don't know if it was the full title or if it was Detective Comics, but he had Dick Grayson take over, and it's one of the few modernish runs of that character that I've read. And it was just a little bit, but it's actually awesome. It's really good.
Oh, nice.
So that's why I'd like to see Scott Snyder tackle Moon Knight someday. That would be really fun.
Oh, that'd be cool. I mean, like, I've only read a few things of his of Batman. Oh, hang on, that's a one reference. So we'll and it's been pretty good.
I think that's two now.
Oh no, damn. I'm gonna have to go back. I'm gonna have to go back and bleep it. Very good. I found his writing, of the character. Yeah. So I just want to stress his writing. So I'm not necessarily saying the character's good. I'm just saying the writing.
No, the character sucks, but he does a good job. He does a good job writing stuff. I mean, he's a good writer. Witches, that horror comic that he does is super great.
That was his, Image, yeah. I've read the first, just the first one. It took a while for the second one to come out, right? It took a couple of years.
They're taking break. It's Image. They can do whenever they feel like it.
Yeah. And I guess just to cap off, I guess music-wise, I was listening to a lot of piano music, but I won't bore the listeners with that. I just want to actually leave it with The Next. I'm going to give a big shout-out to, I think they're still around, an Aussie of course, an Aussie Australian.
An Aussie Australian.
Yeah, an Aussie jazz band, bit more avant-garde. Double bass, just double bass drums and piano, but their tracks go for like half an hour. Like they just kind of they build and they it's all improv. That's really cool. You just reminded me with Brian Eno and that kind of soundscape that he creates, like The Necks, Necks. They do very much the same thing. You end up almost in a trance if you do listen to them actively. So they're actually good for reading as well. A big shout out.
Check them out.
Yeah. All right, Loonies. I hope you have gleaned a lot of recommendations from both Knol and myself there for comics, for podcasts, for music, for TV and film. Actually, we're not going to go to a break yet. We've still got a bit of news here, Knol. I forgot.
We can quickly go over this stuff.
Yeah,
just some Marvel Studios news.
And in keeping with this episode, not Moonlight related. Not Moonlight related.
Well, slightly. There was that, what do they call it, big game ad for the Disney Plus stuff, and they showed a little. Showed a little bit of the next upcoming series, the Falcon and Winter Soldier and WandaVision, and
what are your thoughts?
One bit from Loki. I mean, and the stuff looked fantastic.
Looked good, doesn't it?
I mean, that bears good for the Moon Knight show. That at least it's going to look that good.
Did it have something for Loki? What was that? Was that just just
Hiddleston? A quick little thing of him wearing. He looked like he was in a prison jumpsuit.
Yes.
The time. He had the stamp of the Time Variance Authority.
Okay.
Which is like this weird little Marvel Easter egg of it was a group that just went through time, cleaned up time.
Oh.
Like the Langoliers or something.
Okay, that vaguely rings a bell.
Yeah, I think it was like a 90s thing. I don't even think I've ever even read a comic with that group in it, but it sounded like that's kind of a thing in science fiction. They did that on Star Trek. They had a group that would admonish people for, James T. Kirk for time traveling and stuff.
Right. The Guardians of Time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, there was... did you ever read Astonishing Spider-Man and Wolverine that Jason Aaron did a few years ago?
No.
It's not the Time Variance Authority, I don't think, but there's a group that whole book is about time. It's a really fun, ridiculous short series where Spider-Man and Wolverine are just traveling all throughout time.
Yeah.
And chasing, like the Orb is in it, that Jason Aaron character that's just
big
a big
eye.
He's in it. And a couple other new characters that he invented, but then they they're getting chased down by, I think they call them the Minutemen, actually, and they're just like some time cops who are just like, Wolverine and Spider-Man are fucking up the whole timeline. It's not our fault. It's a really funny book.
Yeah, I like to dip my toe in, like, the time kind of time-related stories. Not too much and stuff. I've come across there were some really good ones that Jerry Duggan did with Deadpool. I thought was really fun.
Did Jerry Duggan do Deadpool's Secret Wars? Was that him?
Yes, I think he did, because that was around the time of his run of Deadpool. So I think so. Yeah.
But so, I mean, it makes sense to have Loki in the context of the Marvel movie stuff, since like that last big movie was all about time travel things, and so that looked cool. And the Falcon Winter Soldier stuff,
that looked good.
It looked cool. I mean, I'm a little less interested in that, even though I think some of the Cap movies are some of my favorites. For some reason, I'm just not as excited as I am mostly for the WandaVision thing, because that looks messed up.
I am as well. I mean,
before I couldn't care at all, but now I'm like, this is... I mean, when I heard the concept, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool and weird and different. I like that. And now, just seeing a little footage of it, it's like, this is going to be really weird.
Yeah, and that's what I absolutely love about it, because it was a little bit of a risk as well. And even when the title first came out, WandaVision, people going, oh, that sounds really bad.
I still think they should call it... even if there's a reason to the show, it's still a stupid name. They should have just called it, like...
Vision.
Like the comics, like the Vision and the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
So what if it's long?
But this is the bit of speculation. What do you reckon's happening here? There are a lot of people saying, I read one guy online saying, it's obvious. And sigh, it's obvious that, this is all a fabrication of Wanda, and this is going to lead into House of M, because she's going to break down, because she wants... It's kind of like a post-traumatic thing of wanting Vision back, which I can understand.
Yeah. I think that is kind of the obvious. I mean, they're pulling from, as they do with the Marvel Studio stuff, they kind of take the best of different things and kind of over the generations, and kind of... That's why I was reading the early miniseries with those two, and then next I'm going to read Volume 2.
Yes.
and bits of House of M and bits of the Vision of Scarlet Witch stuff, bits of Tom King's Vision, which is great. And just combine it and make it, put a twist on the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be a twist that some people probably won't see coming. Yeah. I mean, I'm just there for it. Enjoy the ride. It would be cool as long as it's really kind of weird. And apparently it's going to tie directly into the Doctor Strange movie, which now is. I saw you put on the sheet another topic that there's talks that.
It's been confirmed.
Raimi?
It's confirmed.
Oh, it has it fully confirmed now?
It's confirmed now. Yes, before I...
Yesterday it was talks, and this morning it's confirmed.
Well, I mean, I've just been trawling through Twitter, and it's like, it seems it's mostly confirmed from people talking about it and people reporting
Did we got this covered confirm it?
MCU Cosmic. We laugh, listeners, because
they suck.
They suck, yeah. But no, Raimi. Just one before we get into that though. The other explanation could just purely be that WandaVision is in a different reality, right? In one of the multiverses, and so
I mean, they're saying it's going to tie. I mean, Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel Studios, said it's going to tie directly into Doctor Strange.
Should be so cool. And now we have the announcement. Actually, that was what clinched it for me, Noel. I read Scott Derrickson's tweet, and he pretty much confirmed it. He said, I've worked with Raimi before, and there's no better person to take the reins to Doctor Strange. So he's going to say
if I'm being honest, I'm actually... Scott Derrickson seems like a cool dude. But I know, some people who are big Doctor Strange fans. I liked his movie, but there's parts that I loved, but a lot of people have liked his characterization after his movie more.
Yes.
Like in the Avengers movies and stuff. And I just think that feels more like Doctor Strange. Yes. And I kind of, I've read a fair amount of Doctor Strange. I'd say I'm a fan, but I'm not obsessive. That's why I was like, I'm okay with it. But a lot of people the past couple days have been like, I think Sam Raimi might be a better fit for Doctor Strange. Especially if he keeps the sort of more practical effects.
Yes.
And I think he's got, he's a horror director, but he's also very funny, and he's also weird. Like if he could bring some sort of almost kind of David Lynchian surreal bits to it. I tried to watch Eraserhead recently again. I can't do it, but like
so weird.
If
the little
if
fetus,
he could bring some of those
on the dick.
That's right. But if he could bring some of the ideas and the elements of things like that. I mean, there are sort of Lynchian elements in some of Sam Raimi's stuff. So if he could kind of push that and use the digital effects to sort of enhance the weird stuff he could come up with, but he doesn't have a lot of time. I mean, they haven't pushed any scheduling back or anything for this film, so...
No, and I think also he'll be at the whim of the studio. I mean, there was speculation that Scott Derrickson left because of, he said creative differences, so there might be...
Which it could be, but then Sam Raimi is pretty famous for... He did Spider-Man 3, he did it.
He did,
But he's famous for hating it.
Yes, I mean... I don't in any way blame him for Spider-Man 3 at all. You've only got to look at the first two, what he did, Spider-Man 1 and 2. Yeah. Spider-Man 2 is still one of my all-time favourites. It's
one of the best superhero movies ever. I guess, and Kevin Feige worked on Spider-Man 3.
Yeah,
he was, as a producer, he was way lower down the chain, but recently I even just saw like a promo when they were pushing that film back then, of Kevin Feige saying like, now we brought in the symbiote, and we've got, and that's what Sam Raimi came. But I guess he has a good relationship with the two of those guys. Raimi and Feige have a good relationship, so we'll see. It could be amazing, and that's what I hope it will be.
I think for me, just final thing about it, I feel pretty safe in Raimi's hands as a consumer to consume his movie coming out.
I was going to say, would you let him hold Finn?
Yeah, sure. As long as as long as one hand isn't a chainsaw, But
right.
No, I think he'd be pretty safe. And also, I've got faith in Marvel Studios. So I don't think there'll be an issue with him butting heads with the studios again and ending up with a Spider-Man 3. I don't think we'll see that again with Doctor Strange 2. So I think we'll get at least an entertaining film. Again, you can never please all the fans. There'll be diehard,
and if he's coming on board, he's at least in the mindset of he knows that he's got to work within parameters.
Yeah. Oh, he's been around. It's not his first rodeo. He'll know. He'll know what to do, and he's very experienced. So, and he can do horror as well. Albeit if Marvel.
And there's just a vibe he has too. There's something about his movies that kind of have that '60s camp thing that works perfect with Doctor Strange.
It does. I can't wait to see. I'm hoping Bruce Campbell makes his debut into the MCU somehow. I don't know what.
He will.
I'd love that. So interesting news ahead, and as you say, Knol, it all looks good for Moon Knight's TV show. Which
there's a good chance that somehow, in some way, this could be an introduction to Moon Knight.
It could be. How cool would that be?
The Doctor Strange, yeah.
What if he turns
even
up
if it's
at the
just
end?
sort of in some sort of tangential way, but I think they're going to use this as a way to introduce a lot of characters, or hopefully they do.
Can you imagine?
Sometimes they half-ass it. So.
Oh yeah, true. Oh, but if they do it proper, can you imagine like a post-credit, like in the Sudan or something? And then you see a statue of Khonshu, like that would just that would go off, right? Just a little.
Or
touch.
even Jack Russell.
Yes.
And it's just, you see Jack Russell, and then you see a silver shuriken come down into frame or something.
Because
a moon shuriken.
Because again, they're tying it all into Blade, right? As well, everything is kind of interconnected, and there has been a lot of talk about the Marvel, about the Marvel horror coming now into the MCU. So exciting days, and Moon Knight definitely connects to that, obviously, with the obvious Jack Russell connection. So exciting times ahead. Anyway, Knol, how about we take a little break? We'll have a little chat with the patrons during the break, and when we come back, Loonies, we're going to get into our review, the Over the Moon arc review, Marvel Knights issues 4 to 7. I know you can't wait for this, Knol. I know you cannot wait. Anyway, we'll be back very shortly.
We are Venomaniacs is the Venom Site official podcast for all of your symbiote news, reviews, and point of views about Venom-related comics, movies, television, animation, and merchandise. We are available on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, Google Play Music, and YouTube. Join us, won't you?
I am Connor from the House of L.
And I am Ray from the House of Zod.
We are two of the many, many survivors of Krypton's destruction, and we have made our home in Australia, and dare I say, have become Australians, for better or worse. But we have also decided to read Superman comics, read Superman books, watch Superman shows, cartoons, movies, basically everything Superman, and from an Australian perspective as well. Whether you're a seasoned fan, like me,
Or whether you are coming in fresh, wide-eyed and wanting to learn more like me, then this podcast is for you. Join us for our bi-weekly adventures available on all good podcast catchers.
so just search for Last Sons of Krypton, a Superman podcast. We'll be coming to you from Australia or some cosmic dimension, wherever we are that week.
Up, and away.
Yes, welcome back, Looney listeners, to Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast, where Ray and I are going to talk about this crappy book.
Yes. We are here. Sorry, Knol, it cuts. I wasn't too sure what you said, but we are here for Over the Moon.
You'll hear later.
The arc review. I can't wait to hear it. We are here for the arc review. We are looking at Marvel Knights issues 4 to 7. We might pair that back to 4 to 6, Knol. A slight typo. My fault. because that goes into part 1 of Strange Matters. But anyway, we can always talk about it. Released 2000, and the credits as follows: written by Chuck Dixon, pencils by Ed Barreto, inks by Klaus Janson, colorist David Kemp, letterers Richard Starkings and Troy Pateri, and editor Nancy Dickezian. Now, for listeners that aren't aware, what we're going to do, we'll go through our synopsis, our bare bones, and then Knol and I, look, why not just keep to the style that we are doing now, free-forming with our thoughts on the issues, on the arc as a whole, and then we'll end off with a moon rating. It can be either a vanilla rating or one of patented ratings from Khonshu. So Knol, we haven't discussed this. I don't know. Do you want to read this thing, or
I'll do. Let's split it up here.
Let's split it up.
I'll start it off though.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. The synopsis for this: a mysterious figure named Zaran breaks. Zaran?
Yep.
Does that seem right to you? Breaks into an AIM facility and steals a biological weapon. Meanwhile, Daredevil, Black Widow, Shang Chi, and Dagger, for some reason, meet up to discuss their plan to take down the Punisher and end his reign of terror in New York. The Punisher stealthily surveys the heroes, showing that he's always at least one step ahead. Zaran continues to cut a swath through AIM facilities, and this time he gains access to a biohazard chamber to steal mysterious chemicals. Shang-Chi has a mission of his own as he tries to help out a couple find their missing daughter, whilst Dagger has other things to worry about and enlists Black Widow to help her find Cloak, who has recently gone rogue. Both Black Widow and Dagger are met by Nick Fury in Natasha's apartment, whilst Daredevil runs into Moon Knight, finally, who wishes to join their group. Zaran returns to his master, Shang-Chi's father, the mysterious and racist Fu Manchu, offering a chemical agents to him for his own dastardly plans.
Daredevil and Moon Knight continue to negotiate, whilst Nick Fury questions Black Widow's motives for joining the Marvel Knights. He reminds her that she's still on the S.H.I.E.L.D. payroll, and Dagger jumps at the opportunity to use S.H.I.E.L.D. resources to find Cloak. Whilst Cloak causes mayhem in the city, meting out his own justice, the Punisher catches wind of a designer drug run by Daddy Wronglegs over near the Manhattan Bridge. Upon investigation, Frank runs into Daddy Wronglegs, who appears to be a literal interpretation of his nickname. Shang-Chi prepares to make leave of the family he has tried to help before he gets ambushed by Zaran, who is sent there to kill him. Zaran and Shang-Chi battle, which spills out on the street, and after some tense moments, Shang-Chi proves the victor. Moon Knight furthers his case to the Marvel Knights by showing Daredevil, Black Widow, and Dagger one of his buildings, which he proposes to use as a headquarters. And Daredevil reluctantly accepts the offer, and a team is born. And finally, the Punisher battles the monstrous Daddy Wronglegs and a horde of mutated addicts. Victims, no doubt, to the designer drug, which could only be the very same chemicals recently attained by Fu Manchu. Before the Fantastic Four intervene to save Frank and the day. So, Loonies,
that's right.
That was it in a quick nutshell. That was 3 issues, 4 to 6 actually, and 4 to 7 actually go more into, as you said, Knol, a bit more interesting. It delves into more of the Cloak side of things, and him going a bit AWOL with his actions.
Yeah, and that's where the story sort of gets interesting, and focuses less on only Punisher.
Yes, but let's delve into the first bit, which has the Punisher and has Zaran. Overall impressions, Knol?
Well, the comic, I like how the first several pages are a wordless comic, and the action is depicted pretty decently, I would say. That's kind of like the sign if a comic can work well without its word bubbles. And I kind of liked that. I mean, you can tell that Dixon doesn't really care about any other characters except for or Punisher.
He does love the Punisher, doesn't he?
Yeah, and it just shows like big time. You know, I've got a real problem with this Dixon guy.
Yes.
He's. I'll just admit that I did not purchase these comics. I borrowed them because I will refuse to support him in any way. Chuck Dixon has aligned himself with basically neo-Nazis over the past few years, and white supremacists and misogynists, and he's only people who are putting out his comics are neo-Nazi, white supremacist misogynists.
Yeah. You mentioned Vox Day, right? Was that his name?
Vox Day is one of them, and who's the other guy? The other guy who does that stupid YouTube channel where he just complains about how people of color and women are taking over comics. I've always known that Chuck Dixon was not the greatest character, but over the past few years, he's become a real turd, like a real bad person.
Yeah.
And I'll have to admit that it's hard to review his writing now without that knowledge of the kind of person he's become. You know, it's like it is tainted.
Yeah.
Everything for me from him. He's not a bad writer, I would say, at least for these things. Like I'll just be honest, I didn't enjoy this comic much. At least issue 4 through 6. Actually, when 7 did start, which we won't be covering today, the ideas got more interesting. But like this daddy wrong legs thing was just stupid.
Yeah.
It was just a dumb idea. And it was which is weird because, I mean, I don't know if it was an editorial mandate or if it was Dixon's idea, but that doesn't seem to be in keeping with what I know of his Punisher stuff.
Oh, okay, right.
Sort of otherworldly aliens and things like that. It just doesn't seem right. And I know he needs to tie this into some weird mystical shit and weird alien stuff of it, but I'll just say, like, he's a disappointing person.
Yeah, look, I mean, I learned a lot about him through you as well, Noel. I didn't realize his character, and it is very, disappointing. And I for one won't support views like that at all, which he's been associated with, and it is hard to kind of discern the character, the man himself, from the writer. I mean, like, as you say, his writing is good. It can be good. For me, this 4 to 6 wasn't really good for me. But I've seen, like, his earlier Mark Spector Moon Knight, I've really enjoyed. So he
did you? Yeah. See, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
Okay. I didn't enjoy it. I mean, I haven't read his entire Mark Spector run, but
it's pretty much the same. But
I read a lot of it, and I don't. We always say, like, people have different interpretations of who Moon Knight is.
Yes.
I don't like some of the changes that he made to Mark Spector.
Well, I'm thinking that was editorial. Like, he had been on record saying that they heavily pushed that. So that whole thing about him being Mark Spector. Yeah, but
he wrote it.
Yeah, but I found that writing in the early Mark Spector a lot tighter. The plot threads a lot fluid. What I found here with issues 4 to 6 was I found a pretty flimsy main thread with little branches of.
And what was the thread?
It was really terrible. I mean, the main thread was basically, and this is what the main thread should be the most apparent, but it isn't. And the main thread really is Daredevil and all the others wanting to join together to beat the Punisher, right? That was the main thread. But what you have off that was Shang-Chi helping that family look for the daughter. Shang-Chi connected with Zaran and Fu Manchu, which was, I found, quite interesting because it was very kind of similar to a lot of Doug Mensch stuff, but it wasn't pursued further. And then you have this weird Punisher. For one thing, pure coincidence, he goes, finds a designer drug cartel that happens to be the Fu Manchu designer drug that I'm assuming that he has manufactured with the the biotoxin stuff. There was such a flimsy connection for the Punisher to find Daddy Longlegs and these mutated addicts. Then that other thread...
it was just an excuse for Punisher to shoot a bunch of...
Yeah. But...
it's the same thing as, it's a lame comic trope of just like we need faceless things for Wolverine to kill or, for the Punisher to take down. And especially have it... And there's like threads. I mean, you're supposed to have an A plot and a B plot generally, right? This has an A plot, a B plot, a C plot.
Yeah.
A D plot... eventually comes in with issue 7
with Dagger,
and then
Dagger
and E plot, and there's so much. It's manic.
It doesn't seem that there's no real direction, and the main direction for me should be coming from this thing about Daredevil, Moon Knight wanting to join the Marvel Knights. The team. That's a core of the thing, but it seems like Dixon is so distracted by all these other things that he wants to introduce. It just becomes...
he just wants to write Punisher.
And he wants to write the Punisher. Because the Punisher
wants to write a fascist,
And then, I mean, again, if I start towards the end, what I found totally just like such a cop-out was the Fantastic Four coming in, bam, they fixed everything. This whole thing. Punisher's at his, his back to the wall. He's seemingly going to be killed, and then all of a sudden, the Fantastic Four,
Deus Ex Machina come in.
Absolutely, they've never been featured anywhere. They just come in, bang, we fixed it. They don't recognize the Punisher, so he gets away. It was all a little. I found it a little. And the art as well. I mean, I can recognize the Klaus Janson inks, and this to me,
I couldn't. To me, I think he was useless. I was like, he doesn't. Didn't look like Janson inks to me at all.
Because I've seen
and I know what's the artist's name again?
Ed Barreto.
Yeah, he did mostly DC comics.
Okay,
he did a couple Marvel things, and it looks more like 90s DC to me.
Okay, because it looks very 90s to me. Yeah.
I mean, just 90s in general. It's not, and it's funny because I was reading up on him. He goes, he passed away a few years ago.
Yeah.
But he got his start in the late 70s, like 79, 80. And so I've figured his style would have been a little bit more harkened back to that. But he just seemed to be, maybe he hit his peak in the 90s and then never really got with that. But it's funny. The copy I had too, I don't know, there was weird things with some of the word balloons and stuff weren't fully filled in. Like when Johnny Storm shows up.
Yeah.
Some of his word balloons, they're like in fire,
Yeah.
But some of them weren't filled in for some reason, and I don't know if it was just like the scan didn't.
Oh, right.
I don't know. It was just very strange.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I was like, Klaus Janson really inked this? Like I couldn't. I went and picked up some other. There's a Daredevil run with him on inks and JR doing pencils with Frank Miller writing, because there's hints you could tell. I don't know if it's him in the storytelling or if it's Dixon in the writing, but there were parts just where he was like, I don't know, just do some Frank Miller shit, I guess.
You
know, like action shots. There's one that he completely swiped from the Wolverine solo book that Miller did the art for, and
well, I mean,
Chris Claremont did the writing for it. And I was just like, this is just a swipe, like exactly from that. It's like, well, okay.
Yeah, I mean, Klaus Janson as well. He did work on the Wolverine solo as well, and that's where I'm kind of finding the correlation. He inked for John Byrne after the early Frank Miller, Chris Claremont stuff. This was again in the 90s, and his inking style, I don't know. To me, it's particular. Yeah, I can see it even with the different pencilers. So. I don't know. I just think that Ed Barreto and Klaus Janson's, it didn't work well together. I mean, it did have that 90s vibe, but that's not in a good way. you know, there's a lot of good things in the 90s as well, but not so in that. And so I found actually the voicings towards the end. I mean, actually, sorry, let me take a step back. Ed Barreto, I found the portrayal of the Punisher, I think he looked pretty cool in it, and I did like the portrayal of Shang-Chi in it because
it made me more interested in wanting to read some old Shang-Chi comics, which now probably have doubled in price since the seeing this movie. But it made me more interested. I didn't like his characterization per se. It seemed very bland and sort of. I mean, I know there's more to the character than that. It's very, let me meditate. Like in that story of the reveal.
But that
of what happens to this, it's just like I saw that coming.
Yeah, that reveal of you mean the reveal of Fu Manchu? I mean that's been done.
No, that I know is his father. The reveal of the family that he had been helping.
Oh yeah.
Be murdered. It was just kind of like, yeah, okay.
It was a bit of an afterthought, it seems, from Chuck Dixon. He had to do something.
Like the only voice that seemed genuine was Punisher's in this. Yes. And that's just because, that's what he wants to write.
Yeah, but I did like Barreto's portrayal of Shang-Chi as well, because he did have that very Asian look. And I say it, like, there are sometimes Shang-Chi is drawn, but he's still kind of drawn like a Western, which kind of comes off. So again, I hark back to that David Ayer we were talking about earlier with Fraction's Hawkeye. He does a kick.
Gene Colan's like original Shang-Chi stuff is awesome.
Yeah.
And he makes him really bulky and stuff. And there's a lot of like crappy stereotypes in that. But it was the 70s,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But just the art looks awesome, and the designs on like Shang-Chi's kung fu robes and stuff. He does all these little kind of Ditko swirls and stuff, and like cool. That stuff is just classic.
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's a lot to like about Barreto's stuff as well. So for me, the Punisher, Shang-Chi, even Daredevil, I found was drawn pretty cool, like pretty slick looking. Moon Knight, Moon Knight was neither here nor there. He was blonde in this one.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to scream about. Why the hell is he blonde?
I don't know. Maybe another identity. I don't know. Yeah.
Is it the Knol Mark Spector? Maybe they should get me to play him since he's blonde now, apparently. Yeah. Yeah, I was like, what the hell is this?
I know. How could you make that? Like, you're making a mistake.
Whose fault was that?
It's not like he's a bit character. It's like, it's like making Daredevil have black hair or something. It's crazy. So anyway, so for Moon Knight fans.
My note is just, why is Spectre blonde with 3 exclamation points and 3 question marks?
Yeah, maybe he just had a day where he thought, let's just go blonde for the day. I don't know.
This would be pretty good. Was he oh, yeah, never mind. I don't know, maybe we're missing something.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something. Was there something in like the Mark Spector run where he...
No, not at all.
No, it was just a fuck up, I'm sure.
Yeah. And so what did you think?
I didn't like this...
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was about to say, what did you think of the Moon Knight's influence or Moon Knight's involvement?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. It was stupid. I mean, it was what? Like,
it
was. Once again, it's just like it's a personal preference, but I don't like. They've been doing this in some of the more modern things too. I don't like when they write Mark Spector as kind of an idiot.
Yes.
And he seemed kind of like an idiot and kind of like begging to be on a team doesn't seem very...
Yeah.
I have money.
Why does he want to be on a team?
You should let me on this team. He gave him no reason to want to be. And maybe, I don't know, like, I don't want to read further, but maybe there is some...
Maybe. I don't know.
Reason. Maybe he's got a reason. I don't know. I'll read it, whatever. But, like... It didn't seem very, there was there's some funny quips between him and Daredevil, but it's just like, I don't know. I don't like that characterization of Mark Spector.
No, I mean, what I found interesting from it, I'm trying to find a silver lining here. I did find interesting that,
as you do,
I like it's very different. Mark is the financier, Moon Knight. That's not what we've had before, and that was something different. It was almost as if like Stephen Grant had melded with Moon Knight a little bit more than, say, Mark Spector.
But I wish they would have said that. They could have been a line where he says, because they're all, they all know his identity right away. They're, I think it's Black Widow or somebody who's like,
that's right.
It's not a secret. Everybody knows who you are, Spectre. What if he would have just said like, it's Grant, it's Stephen Grant? And they would have been like, what?
That was actually cool. That was a cool line, I thought, actually, when Black Widow called that out. It's like, because that kind of threw Mark a bit. going, oh, shit, yeah. So,
But it would have been cooler if he would have said,
yeah, Stephen, yeah.
Who?
Yeah, who's Mark?
I'm
Who?
Stephen Grant.
Yeah.
I've got all this money. Mark Spector doesn't have any money.
Yeah, but around this time, because Moon Knight was totally off the radar, right? I think I can't remember how long Mark Spector Moon Knight went. I mean, it went for 60 issues. I can't remember if it made the 2000s, but he disappeared for a few years. Yeah, before Resurrection War and High Strangeness.
Well, Resurrection War. When was that? 99 though.
Oh, was
or
it?
Was that 2002?
I thought it was early. I thought it was early.
I think
2000.
Resurrection War was before this.
Oh, was it? Okay. Right. Okay. Because
I could go flip through the long boxes right now, but I can't do it.
but anyway, he had been missing for a long time. So I think, yeah. Again, how much did Chuck Dixon invest in fun? But actually, having even said that, like Moon Knight does not play a big role in this at all. I mean, you and I read beyond to issue 8 and 9. He does a bit of a fight in that kind of nightmare world, but
that seems. That was going in a cool place. That was the only thing that sort of interests me, because I sort of have Resurrection War 98.
Oh, 98.
So this is
really
2 years. That's 2 years before this is.
Yeah.
And that seems like Mark Spector, right? I mean, of course, that was Doug Moench writing it.
That was Doug Moench, and that was that was a big thing because he came back after dying.
Came back from the dead after Dixon had killed him.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't even think it was Dixon.
No, I don't think Dixon was off. I think it was Kavanagh, Terry Kavanagh, maybe.
Right. Yeah. That sounds right.
Yeah. But okay. Well, that's weird then. I mean, obviously, then it's gone a few steps back, or they just didn't care about the character to worry about. As you say, a lot of it's the Punisher oriented. But again, we'll have to read probably ahead and see. But I mean, Moon Knight's not doing anything special in this issue. He's basically there just to give them a home base, headquarters. It's mainly Dagger wanting to find Cloak, Tyrone, and of course the Punisher doing his thing. But yeah,
and doing whatever the hell he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you know? I didn't read from 1. Do they say why Cloak has gone off his rocker?
No, I didn't as well. And again, that intrigues me because he's a cool character.
Damn it! I'm going to read the whole thing now. Son of a bitch.
I mean, you're talking about Bill Mantlo, and Cloak and Dagger. I find and I've heard the Bill Mantlo, the run is phenomenal. Like, yeah,
I love it. Yeah. I mean, some people really dismiss it, but
it's different.
It's from my child. I was reading it off the shelves when I was a kid.
Yeah, right.
Right. So there's a place in my heart for that. And boy, I hated the way this dude drew Dagger, though. I don't.
Oh yeah.
There's even a part where like Black Widow is like, this is just some shitty Dixon, right? Your outfit's too revealing. You should change. It's just like Black Widow would say that.
Yeah.
With her skin tight bodysuit. Like, I guess if this was written today, that they could have gotten away with that line and then had Nick Fury be like, "What are you talking about, Widow?" Like, But it was none of that.
Interesting also as well, Widow and Daredevil were recently linked, or there's a lot of banter between the two. They obviously had the on again off again kind of relationship
in the 70s.
But I think Chuck has kind of brought that back up. But yeah, anyway, a lot of it's the Cloak and the Dagger and the Punisher. But I found it not really memorable, really, and especially it's on me, my bad, about picking this for a Moon Knight.
No, it's fun. I want to rip it apart a little bit.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't love everything, Ray.
No,
of course. It's okay.
Of course.
Even if it's our favorite character, he's not going to be...
not only that, but it's just that he's not there enough.
He's not in it.
No. And
I mean, he's technically in it,
He is technically, but like, he's meant to be, because I was looking at the wiki, he's meant to be over 3 issues or 4 issues, and he's a bit later, but this 4 to 6, he's like hardly in it. It's like, oh man, I really picked the bad arc there. But anyway, he's for the completionist. He is there, so we have to cover it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. Yeah, if they needed a Tony Stark or sort of Danny Rand type character who's got the money, Moon Knight. I mean, that makes logical sense.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense within his character why he would want to join this team.
Yeah, exactly. He's a lone wolf. I mean, you look at Secret Avengers, you look at him everywhere. You look at it, the latest run with Jason Aaron. The Avengers tried to contact him. He politely declined to join the Avengers.
Or when he was on the West Coast Avengers, he tried to do it for a while, and he was like, "No, this doesn't work."
Yeah,
and it's been since then. Every time he brings it up, he's like, "Remember when I was on the West Coast Avengers? That didn't work out so well, did it?"
Even then, there was a whole lot of mistrust and everything. So it's weird to think that he's actually actively pursuing to join a team. That just it really goes up against the character. And I mean, I just want to go back to it, Noel. Just the thread. I found the writing very poor. The threads were very poor. Actually, I don't know what else to go on from that, but it's
most of the dialogue was poor, which it set the bar so low that when there was a little line every once in a while, I'd be like, oh,
yeah,
oh, it's kind of a decent line, and it's because the rest of it was such garbage.
Yeah, I actually thought Ben Grimm and Johnny Storm, they sounded pretty cool. They sounded kind of like they should, like.
Kind of like they should, but it's easy. All you have to do is do a good Stan Lee impersonation, and then
exactly.
you've got.
I love the Ben Grimm saying, "Oh, cockroaches! Oh, we get those size cockroaches on Yancey Street." That sort of stuff. Just.
Yeah, was that a Men in Black ripoff?
Ooh, depends on when Men in Black came out. Did it come out 2000 as well?
I think it was in the 90s.
Oh. Okay, yeah, it's, could be chuck a bit of plagiarism to go on there.
Well, it wasn't the only time he did it in this.
So anything else there? No, let me think. So we have writing, art, characterizations.
Did you notice that on some of those splash pages that the dialogue balloons were really small?
I didn't notice it actively. They could well have been.
Not every time there was a splash page, but every once in a while, all of a sudden, the type would be really, really small, and I'd have to put my glasses on and be like, "What does this say?" Okay, I'll take it off.
Yeah,
and then they would be back to normal. It's just weird inconsistencies, and it's like, I'll say this: Joe Quesada did a lot of the covers.
Yeah.
I think all the covers.
Yeah,
they look good.
Covers look good. I love Joe.
Marvel Knights logo was cool.
Yeah. Joe Quesada's, he was one of my favourite artists in the 90s. He went on, a bit of a Ray ramble here. He went on to do the X-O Manowar on Valiant. Oh, beautiful art. And of course, X Factor as well. The all-new, all-different X Factor with Peter David. Really good stuff. So, he did
a lot of good things in the 2000s, too. He brought on Bendis.
Yes.
He brought on a lot of indie creators into Marvel, and which really changed...
Yep.
What was I was reading something recently, and I was like, it's funny, like, more so than not, Marvel art looks like indie art now from like the 80s.
Ah, right.
It's like there's the really kind of stylized indie stuff in the 80s and early 90s. It's like so much Marvel artists these days are more influenced by that than they were by somebody like a big 90s artist like Quesada himself or McFarlane or something like that. It's kind of funny. Yeah. Anyway, tangent.
Yeah, I mean, the artwork for the covers is great. I mean, I think if anything, you might be, dare I say, slightly disappointed when you open the book after seeing the covers.
That's comic books.
Yeah, that is, isn't it? I mean, actually, as I was saying that, I realised, far out, how many times has that happened?
What was that, Marvel Presents, or was it a Spotlight where Jack Kirby did the cover for with Moon Knight on it?
Oh.
And you're like, whoa, this is Jack Kirby drawing Moon Knight on the cover. And then you open it up and it's like, oh, okay. This is fine. I mean, it's not, it's not Jack Kirby, but whatever.
Yeah. Anyway, so Noel, shall we give this, unless you have any final comments for this, would you like to close off any more?
I think I've gotten to all my notes. I had a couple more notes for like the next issue. But we're not going to talk about that.
Oh, so, okay,
Except for there is one thing that I wanted to point out
because
and maybe if we do more of this arc later, we can talk about it. But there was one splash page with Doctor Strange fighting Cloak. Mm-hmm. And at the bottom, there's just a little dedicated to Steve Ditko, and I thought that was cool.
Oh, really? I didn't notice that. Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's the one splash page where Doctor Strange just goes in at him, and at the bottom in a little square it says to Steve Ditko. I was like, cool.
Yeah, I've got to admit that Doctor Strange taking on Cloak or a powered up Cloak is pretty damn awesome, and so I was enjoying Strange Matters or Dark Matters or whatever it's called, the next arc.
Next arc.
So we'll definitely cover that because that goes, obviously beyond 7, 8, 9, maybe 10. I didn't get up to 10, but I think I read up to 9, and 9.
I read up to 8.
Okay, 9 had the reveal of Nightmare. So,
oh wait, yeah, I did read up to 9.
Yeah,
okay.
that was a lot.
Spoilers.
20-year-old spoiler. But so we're gonna have to cover that. We'll cover that as well. And I don't know I don't know how much Moon Knight features in it. He's still stuck in that realm, so maybe he's there for a good.
And if I remember correctly, he's not in the team the whole time of the run, is he?
No, I think he's
only
in
for a while.
Yeah, he goes off.
So, I'd be interested in reading until he's out of the book.
Yeah,
just to see what happens. But fuck you, Chuck Dixon.
Closing statements from Knol Loony Toonz Tate. No, okay, well, Knol, why stop there? Let's go for the ratings. we can really twist the knife now.
Okay.
So out of this, we'll only do it again 4 to 6. Marvel Knights of 2000 by Chuck Dixon and Ed Barreto. What would you give this as an arc?
Well, I will be doing Connor Shoe's rating because they came up with the best thing ever, and I really want to give it a what the fuck, the clouds are in the way, but I won't.
Oh no,
because it's not a 1 out of 10.
Okay.
It's I would say it's a DreamWorks logo moon for me.
3. Okay.
A 3 because oh man, yeah, I don't know. I didn't find much to like, but there were, like I said, the bar was set so low for me that the couple little bits that I did like, I enjoyed. But it wasn't. I don't know. It could be even a crumb of a moon for me.
Crumb of a moon. For Looney listeners, that's 2.
Which would be a 2 out of 10.
Crumb of thank you, Connor Shoe.
Yeah, it's somewhere between a DreamWorks logo moon and a crumb of the moon, like a 2.5-ish.
2.5.
I guess.
Okay, I'm going to put you down for 2.5. Yeah, let's get your no holes barred, because I'm moving mine down south as well.
That half I think is just because Moon Knight's in it
at
all.
Yeah, there are little things which do elevate it, like you say, the appearance of Moon Knight, because I was just like, I was waiting for him to turn up. I do love Daredevil, but he did crap all.
He's barely in it either. The whole thing is a fucking Punisher book, and a shitty one.
It's a terrible one. Yeah. Again, I'll put it back down to Punisher. He's being potentially hunted by these heroes. That's the main thread. Then all of a sudden,
that doesn't even happen either.
It doesn't happen. Then all of a sudden, he interrogates a goon, and the goon says, "Oh yeah, there's a designer drug out near the Manhattan Bridge," and Punisher finds that, and lo and behold, that has
the whole thing is. I'm going to shoot a motherfucking name. It's fucking, and then a giant alien monster for no goddamn reason.
Yeah. So I gave it a 4.5, a little bit lenient. I started with
very lenient.
I started with a 5 there, Noel, but because I thought,
what?
Well, 5 is just barely passable. It's just a pass mark.
Yeah, it's not passable.
Yeah, but now I've got to take it to 4.5. The only things that bring it up are, as you say, are Moon Knight, and for me, the glimmers of Barreto's art. I did like how he made the Punisher look. He gave him a really rugged look. I liked the Shang Chi look, and I liked the Daredevil look as well.
Yeah, I think. Well, you're a little more in tune with '90s art than I am. I think we've talked about this before. Yeah. I hate '90s art. It's That's why I didn't read Image Comics back then. That's just my own person. You know, everyone has their own thing. What they like. You know, I have a good friend who loves that stuff, and I'm just like, read a Chris Ware book and then tell me that this art isn't a billion times better. And he was like, well, okay, yeah, it is. I mean, technically speaking, this is inventive and stuff, but it's like...
Don't get me wrong. This is like, for me, this is the lower tier 90s stuff. I mean, there's a lot better...
But you have an appreciation for that stuff.
And then,
I just don't at all.
Yeah.
That's why. I'm sure if I liked the art more, my rating would be a little bit higher, but it's just not even my thing for art. So I mean, very little for me to like.
Yeah, but the main crux for me was the writing for this. Unfortunately, it just seemed like a bit of a hodgepodge of a plot. And it's
very hacky.
Yeah,
and, you know, and as much as I don't like the writer, I think. I know for a fact that he's a better writer.
He can do better. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I know what he can do as well, and this is not one of his best efforts. So, and I'm sure he's forgotten all about this as well. You know, if you ask him, oh, hey, do you remember your Marvel Knights? Well, I don't know. I
don't know. I'm too busy being racist over
here. Exactly. Anyway, so Loonies, that was Knol and I's.
I'm too busy thinking there's too many chicks in comic books.
That's it. I can't believe the comics got it. That's just freaking banned over. You know. That's terrible. That is so really weird. Terrible. I mean, like, I love Peter David, and I know he's not the most... I think he's one of the pricklier customers, and of course his character outside of comics a little bit desired, but I still do revere his writing. I think he's really good. Chuck, you know, it's disappointing to hear now what he's doing.
It just is. There's plenty of prickly characters in comics, you know... There's lots of Frank Miller's had his problems. You know, I mean, everybody. But it's one thing when you're just like that bad.
Yeah.
You know, when you really just dismiss people for being terrible. People.
Yeah, no, that's...
When you think that you've got some weird idea in your head that comic books used to be this thing. It's like, fuck, dude, you wrote for Marvel. Which was the company that was in the forefront in the 60s of trying to get women and people of color and diversity in their books in the first place. And it's always been that way with Marvel Comics. They haven't always done a great job, that's for damn sure. You know, like Lee's really early, you know, a lot of people have been talking about this lately, like the way Stan Lee voiced women, who was always just stupid, but they tried, and the next generation, you know, the ones that came up under Lee and Ditko and Kirby tried really hard to make, you know, the first people to have a lead starring black character in a comic book. The first, you know,
I think
these are things that have always been there.
Yeah, I think you got to give a little leeway to like Stan Lee and all that. I mean.
Oh, it's just a different, you know.
Just a different era, and it's hard to...
You read his soapboxes, you know that he was on the right page. Absolutely. If you were to read a Chuck Dixon soapbox, you'd want to fucking puke.
Yeah. I mean, because reading that Daredevil, the Volume 1 epic, you know, with Stan Lee, and the way he portrays Karen Page, you know, I'm reading it, and you know, obviously I take it with a grain of salt, because the way she's portrayed...
I mean, you just have to.
It's just the... I mean, there's no ill intent.
You know, I think about that a lot. Just even people... You know, like society progresses pretty quickly, and we forget sort of like how stupid we were not even that long ago.
Yes.
And I'm just talking a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
You know, there's just things. It's like you got to progress and move on, and you got to take that stuff with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I don't think Stan Lee thought any lesser of women. No. He just thought these dames in these comics are...
Well, he just couldn't write. He just couldn't tap into the female voice. That's all. I mean, he's
not at all.
He's a guy. I mean, you know, and then you know, he just couldn't really write for women. I mean, that's unfortunately he didn't have the skill to do that. So, So anyway, so there you go, Loonies. That was 2.5 I've got there for Knol, and 4.5 for me. So you add them all up, and that's a 7 out of 10. But that's an average of 3.
Solid round boy.
A 3.5 average.
No.
So
3.5.
Yeah. If you
somewhere between a telephone moon.
Yeah, a telephone.
And a DreamWorks logo.
Connor Shew, dearie me.
Love you, Connor.
Yeah. So yeah, pick it up for the Moon Knight fans. If you want to read it, obviously have a go, read it, see what you think. Let us know as well. It'd be good to hear. I posted up the discussion thread a little bit late, so understandably not much feedback. But also they are like 20-year-old comics as well, Knol. So a little harder unless you do the digital. A little harder to come by.
And probably I would guess like a lot of loonies probably just haven't read this.
Yeah, so it would be very interesting to hear.
I hadn't.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. It's not what I remembered. It was such a long time ago. Anyway, that pretty much, I guess, wraps us up for this show as well, Knol. A huge thank you. I love chatting with you. The honesty is why I hit that record button to get your your takes. It's good.
Well, thanks for having me on, Ray.
Yeah, no worries.
I love it. Anytime.
Yeah, fantastic. And thanks again for not reaching out. I reached out to you. Thanks for putting your hand up as well. I know it's very early morning there for you. I'm hoping you're up to your coffee number 5 to keep you kind of up vibe number 2. Okay.
Just 2.
Okay. Well, it's 2 glasses of whiskey. We're even keel. So, so Loonies, thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Patreon members. So again, Patreons, you can catch the video of this, plus some extra banter between Knol and myself, and extra dead air as Knol and I go grab some drinks, all exclusive to you. If that sounds enticing to anyone else, be sure to be a Patreon member. Would very much appreciate it. Also, as well, I've been working very hard to look at affiliate sponsorships and stuff. You can check out on our links as well, affiliate memberships. Check out our links to Amazon and or Audible, or if you want to start your 30-day Audible trial, just click on the links. It doesn't cost you any extra, but it will help our show as well. That is very exciting. I'm looking at superhero stuff as well, Knol. The clothing brand, they do affiliates as well.
Cool.
This is pretty cool. And some of you may notice as well, we're starting to get some sort of sponsorship with Hello Headphones. So if you want to listen to podcasts in a superior way, go check out some Hello Headphones. I think they're more gaming headphones, Knol, but you know what?
Yeah, they have some really decent products.
Are they okay? So you know of them? In Australia, they're not really well known, but they look. I checked out the website. I might pick up something.
I'd take a free pair.
Yeah, for sure. So Knol, a big thank you once again.
That's good.
That's very cool.
And for some wrap up things, what's the URL for all the reviews that have been going up for Moon Knight?
The reviews? Paint Monk's Library.
Painting Monk's Library.
Absolutely.
Right.
Oh god, a big shout out to
been reading some of those. Really great writing on the reviews there.
A big shout out to Loonies, Russell, Justin, Josh, and Vinay as well. Oh god. Knol, I forgot to mention, I've glossed over on the prompt sheet, a huge shout out to Dakota Alexander. I gave a shout out to the Looney last week. Big apologies. She is a he. I thought Dakota was Dakota, the artist. His artwork is available online on Etsy and on and all that as well.
Yep, I started following Dakota on Instagram as well.
Yes. Sorry, Dakota. Massive apologies. I'm glad that you found it hilarious that I kept on referring to you as a she. But anyway,
Gender's fluid.
Gender fluid. I just wanted to wrap that up as well. But so Paint Monks, a Russell, Justin, Josh, and Vinay as well doing.
Yeah, Looney should check out some of those reviews. They're really great.
I throw in my hat in there as well. So we're going to do it all, Looney. Which Wally, the administrator, he reckons it will take us about 4 years to cover all the Moon Knight issues.
And if you have to read some more.
It's more, yeah.
Marvel Knights, it might take a little longer to get through.
I might ask Russell, Justin or Josh to take up Marvel Knights 4 to 7, I think, for the reviews. We'll see. But anyway, thanks huge to those guys. Again, I'll put the links to the show notes of those guys. It comes out every Monday. So just check out your feed. I'll retweet it and everything. So to be sure, you just check out our groups. Also, next phase, we're going back to the last quarter.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, what is the next phase?
Yeah, we're entering the last quarter. So that will be an Avatars of Vengeance, a gaming review again. So,
got you.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't remember Moon Knight being in the Contest of Champions comic book. That was
no, Al Ewing. No, I followed that as well. It was a good book. But no, he's not in that.
Well, there's like the first.
The first one. Yeah,
Contest
the very first one. Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
No, but he does feature in the tablet game. Moon Knight. So I'm going to be covering that. Hopefully, we'll have a special guest for that as well to bounce off. And finally, Loonies, we, as always, part of the collective, a huge shout out. I want to give a huge shout out to Inner Demons, the Ghost Rider podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Biggie, doing it solo the last couple of issues and episodes, and he's coming up to episode 50. So a huge congratulations to the Inner Demons.
I'd like to give a shout out to the Nexus of All Realities, a Man Thing podcast. I've listened to a few of those.
They're very.
I love me some Man Thing, so that was really cool too.
Yeah, they're releasing volume 3 of the complete collected collection. What is it? Complete collection. Sorry.
Yeah,
that's coming out
pick that up
in the last quarter. A lot of really great podcasts out there, Loonies, in the collective. Go check it out. You can always do #TheCollectiveNet on Twitter, and that should lead you towards. Otherwise, just look at the collective link on our show notes, and you should find us there. So, also as well, just final roundup of you can email us at itkmoonnight@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Discord, Get Vocal, Podchaser as well, and of course, as I mentioned, Patreon. Catch us all there. All the links are in our show notes. Well, we've reached the end, Knol. What's up for the rest of the day for you?
I might take a nap.
I think I might take a nap as well. Maybe a few long hours.
A few more hours.
We're entering 2:00 in the morning here. I look a little dishevelled. I haven't been up this late for a while. But anyway, it's been awesome, Knol. And actually, well, hang on. We're doing all this live. So I'm just going to cue in. Yes, Knol, thank you very much. And as always, may Khonshu watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Goodbye.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information, or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.